Tonight on Community Connections, we're going to be talking about hunger and what we can do about it in Monmouth County. I have with me Rob Goodman from St. Brigid's of Kildare Food Pantry at St. James Church, and Susan Kelly of the Monmouth County Food Bank. I want to thank you both for coming over on rather short notice.
Thank you for inviting us.
Thank you.
Susan, you're the executive director of Monmouth County Food Bank, and I was actually, it was short notice. The other day I was talking to Rob, and I know you've been working at the food pantry and cooking dinners on Saturdays a couple of years now.
Yeah, I've been involved with the pantry here for several years and have been doing a number of feeding ministries over there since 2005.
And a couple of times that we've talked, you've indicated the demand for food, the people who need help in the most basic of areas has increased dramatically in the last couple of years.
We've tripled in the last 2 years.
People showing up and needing help.
Correct.
And when you need help, you turn to Monmouth County Food Bank.
Absolutely.
The food bank is there. We were talking before the show. You provide, your job, the food bank's job is to gather the food to supply to the food pantries. How do you guys go about that?
Well, we like to say we're a nonprofit food distribution center, and we distributed 5.3 million pounds of food last year to programs in Monmouth and Ocean counties, and we have different sources where we look for food. Locally, we look for food drives by churches and businesses, and right now we're running a huge food drive in the schools in Monmouth and Ocean counties. We purchase food through the State Food Purchase Program. We get about 41% of our food from the Emergency Food Assistance Program run by the U.S. Department of Agriculture, and that's where the government funds the Department of Agriculture to purchase commodities, and then those commodities are passed on to the food banks.
Are you looking for people, you know, the drives, are you looking for someone to write a check, or you want food that you can then distribute, or both?
Today we're looking for people to do both. If they want to do a food drive, and in fact we just had a group of Girl Scouts came in today with a carload of food that they had run a food drive in their community. But also we can negotiate prices for larger quantities of food if people contribute and say that it's restricted to food purchases. So we look for both. And every month we kind of reinvent where we're getting the food from to meet the need.
What do you take by way of donation? I mean, does it have to be canned? Does it have to be boxed? Can it be fresh vegetables? Or do you have restrictions placed on you?
We do not like to see anything in a glass jar because that could break. But we ask for, if you go to our website, foodbankmoc.org, and you go to food drives, it'll give a list of the most needed items, and we look for canned stews or meats in a can. We look for canned vegetables and fruits, protein items. During the holiday season, we have, if you look at our website, we actually have drop sites throughout Monmouth and Ocean counties where you can donate a turkey or a ham. I know Diane Turton's has some of her places have freezers. The Windmill has a freezer that you can go and drop a turkey, and so you don't have to drive to the food bank.
So there are ways you will actually take food as opposed, even if it's not in a can. There are ways you can do it.
Yes.
Who do you distribute to? I know that Rob had expressed to me that there were nights where so many people showed up at the pantry, there wasn't enough food to go around, which must be a pretty uncomfortable feeling. He said he called you, and there's higher demand on your services.
Certainly. We're getting some more food out to him this month. We distribute to 250 programs throughout Monmouth and Ocean counties that includes soup kitchens, emergency food pantries run by churches and synagogues, shelters, group homes, and other hunger relief organizations.
250 in Monmouth County alone.
Monmouth and Ocean counties.
Monmouth and Ocean County. I mean, I think people perceive, certainly in Monmouth County, we're not a poor community. We have pockets of poverty, but you know, you look and we have some very wealthy towns. But that strikes me as a lot of people distributing food.
Well, we're the bedroom community of New York, and we saw things go upside down this year. So a lot of people that we wouldn't expect, and they didn't expect to be unemployed, are unemployed. And now they're reaching out to St. Brigid's Pantry and many other pantries in the community. So things have turned upside down.
How'd you get into this, Rob? I mean, I know that you're active at St. James and have been as long as I've known you. But it's become a big part of what St. James does in the community and a big part of what you do.
I spend a lot of time there now, obviously. So the short story is back in 2005, just as the St. Brigid had become affiliated with the Food Bank of Monmouth and Ocean County, I'd started a day labor ministry program, which just involved going out and giving buttered rolls to the day laborers on Saturdays.
The guys who were gathering or whatever the
Looking for work.
was looking for work.
Right, looking for work and providing them with buttered rolls. I started working closely with Harry Smith, who was my predecessor as the director of St. Brigid's, and became more and more involved. Unfortunately, we lost Harry last year, and by default, I took on the director's role and sought to make a number of improvements in the operation, and really couldn't have done it without the Food Bank of Monmouth and Ocean County. I would say that we probably receive about 90% of the food that we distribute through both the USDA and SFPP programs. We do get some loose donations. We've gotten some great donations from the local schools, from the postal workers. We have a Girl Scout troop in Oceanport dropping off donations this coming Saturday.
There are a couple of food pantries and kitchens that feed people in Long Branch. You familiar? I mean, I know Second Baptist has one on Saturday mornings, I believe.
Correct.
There used to be a food pantry at the Housing Authority. I'm not sure it's there anymore.
I don't know if it's there. I know they still have the feeding program on Saturdays. It's good that they have that on Saturdays at noon. Generally on Saturdays evenings at St. James, we offer what we call Sarah's Feast, where the folks who are coming in for distribution of food on Saturday evening are also fed.
So they're coming to pick up groceries for their home. When you say, is that what you're
That's
referring
correct. When I speak of distribution, we're giving them a bag of food.
Are those people, and I assume there's some confidentiality, are those people coming from all over? Are they mostly Long Branch, or do you even keep records?
We do keep records, fairly detailed records in terms of the number of adults and children that are in the household, if they were referred over from another social service program, or if they're just simply there because they're a low-income household. I would say that the majority of them are there because of being a result of a low-income household. As you know, food prices have increased dramatically, and this has put a lot of pressure on low-income families. So quite naturally, they come to us. In answer to who we serve, yes, the vast majority are from Long Branch, but we really don't turn anyone away. We've seen people come as far as Keyport, as far south I think as Bradley Beach.
Is there virtually one in every town now?
Not quite, but we do have them, food pantries throughout the counties. Not every town is covered. And we're looking at right now, we have received funding and we've purchased a mobile pantry. And coming in January, we're actually going to be identifying areas that do not have food pantries, and we're going to be going out to, we're going to be piloting it the first year, and we'll be going out to select areas to distribute whether it's not an existing pantry. We'll be doing it we have 2 locations that we do it just from our truck in Ocean County now.
A pantry like the one that they run at the church, what standards do they have to maintain before you're going to provide them with food?
Well, they have to have certain storage requirements where they keep the food. They have to keep paperwork on the individuals that are receiving the food. So they go through a whole contract that we have to maintain because of the TFAB and the state food program. There are a lot of requirements.
The TFAB is the federal program.
The federal program. But I just wanted to say something. I have to say that we distribute a lot of food to charities, but I really want to salute and commend Rob and all of his volunteers and all the volunteers that work at the emergency food pantries, because they're looking into the eyes of people that are really struggling, and they do it with such compassion and understanding. And I think that's a wonderful quality, and I think that I'm sitting in such great company when I'm sitting with a director of one of these programs, and St. Brigid's definitely one.
Well,
Thank you.
how'd you get into the social services like this?
I like to say I started when I grew up, because I grew up on a farm in South Jersey, and my father and mother always taught us that no one ever went hungry in the community, and farmers shared their produce. What we didn't grow was always a basket of something sitting on our back step, and we did the same with other farmers. It was never we never traded monies, we just took care of each other, and I like the work that I'm in.
What did your family grow?
We grew products for Campbell's Soup. It's back when we were,
Campbell's Soup was in Camden
yes,
at that point.
we grew beets and carrots and tomatoes and string beans and corn.
How big was the farm?
They farmed a large farm. Three brothers farmed 2,000 acres, and it was all contract farming. Hard work. They really started out, they were just three young families with children and worked very hard.
How many generations were farmers?
My grandfather was the first generation, and now my nephew is farming.
So it's now in its third generation?
Yeah, fourth generation.
Oh.
Fourth generation.
Your grandfather, your father?
My brother, and then my nephew.
So the fourth generation's on the same land?
Yes.
Do they still sell to Campbell's?
Campbell's isn't there.
They
just
moved
the
that?
headquarters.
Okay, where?
So now they've switched so that they are not doing, they do the corn, but they do a lot of other things that are not produce now. It's a different type of farming.
It's not an easy living.
No, it's not.
Now, when your grandfather and father and uncles were doing it, we defined that today as green. They were growing locally, selling locally. Mm-hmm. And most of us ate Campbell's products at one point or another when we were kids.
Mm-hmm. But one of the things that I like, we have the state food purchase program here in New Jersey, and part of that contract is that we buy, all the food banks buy from farmers in the summertime, so that we're giving out fresh produce to families in need. So how wonderful can that be?
Farmers in New Jersey.
Mm-hmm.
Correct.
You know, having gone to school outside of New Jersey, nobody who drives the turnpike believes that we're the Garden State. You know, it's they think that they see the turnpike, but we still produce a lot of food. One of the things, we're going to take a break in a minute, and then we'll have the second half of the show. I want people who are watching it to think about donating to either one of your organizations, because we're coming up to time of year where the demand on your services and what you distribute on food is really going to grow. So we'll take a break, and then we'll be back with the second half of the show.
It's springtime in the forest of the black-tailed deer. The young male is feeling playful. It's time for tag. The female flicks her ears. Her way of saying, "Catch me if you can."
Daddy, why is the sky blue?
Well, to match your pretty eyes.
Nope, not even close. See, all colors have wavelengths that are diffused by oxygen and nitrogen. Since blue is the shortest wavelength, it's diffused up to 10 times more.
Who taught you that?
Mommy?
By age 12, too many girls lose interest in math and science and their chance at future jobs. Keep her interest alive.
You know why mathematics is the basis of life as we know it?
You tell me.
It's her future. Do the math.
I'm back with Susan Cowley from Monmouth and Ocean County Food Bank and Rob Goodman, St. James and St. Brigid's
Food Pantry.
Food Pantry. People who, how do people find out where to go for a food pantry? Is it word of mouth on the street? Do they call you up and you give them the one closest to where they live?
It's a combination. We do get a tremendous number of phone calls. It's escalating every month since, for 6 months now.
Do you track how many? Or
We don't. We just don't have the time. But we know that we refer people to the pantry that is closest to where they live. We also are getting a lot of more people stopping in at the food bank looking for food, and we'll give them a box of food, but then we refer them to their local, their closest pantry, because it doesn't make sense to waste gas coming to the food bank.
and then, so you'll refer, if they're from Long Branch, is Rob's program the only one that you work with in Long Branch?
There are other, and you know the names of the other ones in Long Branch.
Yeah, and let me answer some of your question about how we handle it locally. Actually, we have a very cooperative arrangement with all the other food pantries in Long Branch. As a matter of fact, we meet, as a group with the food bank on a quarterly basis. And we actually will hand out to folks and let them know that there are other food pantries in the area. There is St. Luke's Methodist Church, which does a weekly distribution on Fridays. There is a Reformation Lutheran Church in West Long Branch, which does a distribution on Saturdays. And I believe Holy Trinity still has their program active and does distributions on Tuesdays and Thursdays, I believe. And I know that St. Michael's maintains a program as well.
So, somebody shows up, do you do some kind of intake? Or is it somebody shows up, says, I'm hungry, I need food, no questions asked?
So the honest answer is that we do some qualification. It's not necessarily rigid. There are many good reasons why people may not have the information that you would need. But the basic information that we take is we ask them for ID, we ask for proof of address, we ask the number of adults and children in the household, and a phone number in case there's an emergency.
Are people willing to volunteer that kind of information in exchange for food, or is there some resistance? Or different every person?
I would say the vast majority are willing to provide it.
What do you do with the information? I assume there's a degree of confidentiality.
It is confidential, and we have to let the intake volunteers know that they have to do so in private. We actually have to physically set it up, though, so that people wait in line away from the intake area so the person is comfortable sharing information.
Once they've come in and shared that information, say they come back 3, 4, 5 weeks in a row, do they have to give it every time, or is it once you're in, you're approved?
Well, at St. Brigid's, we're computerized, and we maintain a permanent record of the number of visits and how often they come. And we use this to tabulate the reports that are required as part of our agreement with the Food Bank of Monmouth and Ocean County.
You know, we were talking, the food drives are helpful to you, but what percentage of the food that you distribute comes from local food drives?
Less than 10%.
So the other 90, I think you gave a number in the upper 40s for the federal program.
And then the state food program, we have a purchasing program, and then we get food from national donors through Feeding America, which is the nation's food bank network, and they solicit donations from your big manufacturers, and then they allocate it to local food banks according to their poverty and population figures. So we try to be equitable, but it's never enough food. So we really ask people, if you're interested in helping a neighbor, you can do that by having a food drive this anytime. Go to our website, foodbankmoc.org, or make a contribution to the food bank so that we can purchase good, nutritious foods to add to what we're giving out. And it's just, it doesn't stop. 10 years ago, we saw charities that would come in with their cars and pick up the food that they needed because there wasn't that large of a need. Well, they could accommodate the need by filling their car. Today, one order fills a truck. We're averaging charities with 12 to 20,000 pound orders that they're taking from the food bank. That's a huge amount of food.
How much does 20,000 pounds, how many people would you anticipate feeding with that?
That's a
Well, let me ask,
tough
how big-
question.
I can give you an idea.
Yeah.
St. Brigid's moves about 4 to 5 tons of food a month. And
That's
we're-
about 8,000 pounds.
That's about 8,000 pounds, and we service about 600, for the example, for the month of October, we service 659 households.
And that's supplementing a family's food. It's not all the food that they're getting. So they're also purchasing some food, but this helps to supplement what they have.
Does homelessness play a role in what we're talking about here in Monmouth County? Are people coming in to get fed who are homeless?
Yes, absolutely. It's very hard to estimate exactly how large the homeless population is, and unfortunately, they slip in and out of the system. They slip in and out of our orbit in terms of us providing food or services for them, and they also slip in and out of many other available services to them. I would say that out of the 3,000 people that we've had done intake for, maybe 1 to 2% are identified as homeless.
If you keep this sort of records, how many of them are people who were middle or upper middle class who lost jobs, lost homes, or are on the verge of, and they're coming in to see you because they've got nowhere else to turn?
We're seeing an increase at each charity with that. I don't have the specific answers to that. I will in January. We just did participated in a national hunger study this summer with Feeding America, and that information giving a profile of who is being served at the local level will be available to us. And so we're anxious to look at that. But we know that we're serving in the 2 counties over 70,000 unduplicated individuals in need. That was the statistic that came out 4 years ago, and we know that just recently we've seen a 30% increase across the board. So we know we're serving a tremendous number of people.
How much money do you get from the state? How much of what you get is from the state of New Jersey?
The state of New Jersey allocates $4 million for the state food purchase program, which is allocated to the 6 food banks in the state. That is not a lot of money. In New York and Pennsylvania, their state food purchase programs run between $30 million and $40 million a year. So it's a small percentage. As
state budgets get severely more strained, you worried about your funding?
Always. And I will say that the state food purchase program provides just the fact that we're able to provide milk and cheese and eggs and fresh produce to families. I'm very concerned if that program is cut that we won't have those nutritious foods. And I'm sure you see a difference with that, with the food.
Absolutely. This makes a big difference to the families that come, being able to get access to fresh vegetables, especially during the summer months, and the other perishables that we get throughout the year.
But I have seen that both sides of the aisle really support the food banks, and they've really supported the state food purchase program. So I'm encouraged that that will continue, because I do think that there is a great understanding of what's going on.
And in the grand scheme of things with the state budget, it's not a lot of money.
No.
Correct.
A local charity that wants to get involved, I mean, it sounds like your church had to make a fairly significant commitment. I've been in your kitchen. It's not a physically big area. How did they go about it?
Well, it grew in small increments. I mean, that's probably the best way to describe it. The original pantry itself started in 2001, before our affiliation with the food bank. And it took up the second shelf in the custodian's closet.
That's not a lot of area.
No, and it was like that for a good period of time. But as the word got out, we started getting regulars who would come and and we needed more food, so we solicit more
Regulars
donations.
would come for food, or regulars would come for help, or to
Both,
help?
actually. And like I said, over the years, it's just grown. We've been in existence for 7 years. We saw a massive growth when we affiliated with the food bank because we were now able to offer more food. But the thing that has really put a lot of pressure under us, but it's challenged us in good ways, is that we've tripled the number of people that we're serving in the last 2 years. And during the fall months, we actually see that number seasonally increase. It was a little scary this month that we saw a 30% increase over, October over September. And I think you can see that was borne out with the other numbers that you've seen from the other food
Yes.
pantries.
You have a reason why? I mean, unemployment didn't particularly spike that month, or just people who work seasonally in the summer were out of work, or another reason?
I think we saw a lot of layoffs. We saw unemployment. People were falling off unemployment. That was a little later, but we're just seeing the massive layoffs really affected people, and they're coming. We're seeing more middle-class people coming to the emergency food pantries. We haven't seen that in the past.
And in my line of work in bankruptcy, what we're seeing are people who would have considered themselves solidly middle or even upper middle class. They're in foreclosure and they're falling off the cliff quite quickly.
So they need food.
They need food. Unemployment's running out and job prospects aren't good. We're coming in, one of the reasons I wanted to do the show now was we're coming into the holiday season. Both holidays associated with food. You guys need more help than ever?
Absolutely.
You got 2 minutes to give a plug for your
We need
organization.
volunteers, and we need people to donate both food and funds. And we anticipate providing 8,000 families with turkeys this year through our network of emergency food pantries.
Somebody wants to donate a turkey. I don't know if you said it on the air before. Where can they go with
Go
it?
to our website and look at the drop sites. There are drop sites throughout Monmouth and Ocean counties. So go to foodbankmoc.org, and they can find a location close to them.
And can it be a fresh turkey, or it's got to be a frozen?
It can be a fresh or frozen, and they can come to the food bank, and we'll be open right up until Thanksgiving Eve.
And then the same for Christmas. Same for you, Rob? Do you take in food from sources other than fresh food? Would you be able to deal with turkeys, or a little different for you?
It's a little different for us. We will take in turkeys probably more likely for the Christmas holiday season, but we will actually be purchasing turkeys through the food bank. We get if I have to say, we get a good rate.
Actually,
the
I
purchase.
want to clarify that. What we ask is, because we can't sell food, but what we ask is the charities share with our overhead with a shared maintenance fee.
Correct.
And so that's, I think you're getting 120 turkeys.
Correct.
And we actually ordered our turkeys in July. And then they were delivered in October.
So
Because
they're in a freezer somewhere.
they're in our freezer right now, but so you have to order that early to get a really good price. And we're hoping that we'll have another 1,000 turkeys donated next week, I think, by Stop and Shop. So that's pretty exciting, and just the general turkey donations will be coming in.
All right. Well, thank you both very much for coming over.
Thank
and for
you.
both
Thank
of
you for
did.
having us.
You're welcome.